Pulling up the PowerPoint now and we will get started. So welcome everybody. As I muted myself. As I said, my name is Julie Gawana and I am the Chapter Engagement Manager for Foundation Fighting Blindness. As a part of my role, I get to work with local chapters and I'm just super excited that I get to work with Colorado. I've been able to go down for the golf tournament in Vision Walk, and let me just tell you, I mean, as y'all know, just amazing individuals in this area. So I'm super thankful I get to work with y'all. So I'm going to do some quick spiels about the foundation. I know who we're really here for, so I'll get through this. We'll hear from our chapter leaders and then we'll get started. So just a little bit about Foundation Fighting Blindness. We are the largest private funder of retinal degenerative diseases. We have raised over $816 million, and it's all because of you, individuals within the community who come to Vision Walk, who come to our golf tournament. So we thank y'all so much. We are research funded and we cover the entire spectrum of inherited retinal diseases, including retinitis pigmentosa, Stargardt's disease, Usher syndrome, and dry AMD. So about the chapter program itself, we have 3 focus areas, and it's education, resources, and revenue. Today's program is part of our education. We love to have speaker series to get individuals in the community to come out and speak, update on research, update on what it's like living with low vision. So we really appreciate your participation. We're all here to learn today, and that's the best thing. There are multiple ways to get involved, and if you ever want to get involved within the foundation, please reach out to I or Lindsay or Megan. We'd love to get you involved. I'll send a follow-up after today's presentation with all our contact information, whether it's getting involved or just kind of wanting to know more. Please reach out to us. That's what we're here for. If you want to get involved, we have volunteer opportunities. There's ways to donate. Next Saturday, we actually have a national chapter webinar that's focusing on managing your retinal degenerative disease. So if you want to register for that, I'll send the link after that. And just a quick plug about the My Retina Tracker. It's one of my favorite programs that we do. If you ever have questions about that, please reach out to I or anybody at My Retina Tracker. We want to help you as much as possible. And to the people who get it done locally, I want to just give a quick shout out. We have them both on the call today, is our president, Lindsay Blankenship, and then our vice president, Megan Withrow. We do have our education chair. I know he was in some school stuff today, and it's Andy Humes. Everything we do within the community is done because of them. So just quick thank you. They're going to give a little spiel about themselves here in a second, but I just wanted to give them a shout out. And if you ever want to get involved with us, please, please, please reach out to I, Lindsay, or Megan. We want to get you involved. We're here for you. We're looking for a few roles right now. So like I said, any questions or anything, please reach out to me or them. And then I'd like to just hear a little bit from Lindsay and Megan, and then we can get started. Lindsay, would you like to take the floor?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a great weekend so far. I'm Lindsay Blankenship, and I am the chapter president. I myself have retinitis pigmentosa, and it runs in my family. And I have been the chapter president now going on over 3 years. And I just love our chapter. I think it's just such a great group of people, and we're excited to maybe expand those that want to be a part of it. And a couple announcements that I have. I'm planning it's already planned, a Dining in the Dark event. That's I'm doing a DIY fundraiser for the FFB, and that will be Wednesday, April 20th. I will send out the link that you could register or make a reservation. It's a really fun restaurant down in the Highlands neighborhood. So I will send that out, and I would suggest you make a reservation pretty quickly because it's a smaller restaurant, and there's a lot of people not involved with the FFB who are really excited about it. So I will send that out and probably within this next week. So, and I just want to thank our speakers today. I'm really excited to hear all about low vision.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. And then Megan, would you like to say a few quick words?
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
My name is Megan Withrow. I help Lindsay and Julie on the National Foundation Fighting Blindness side, but I found this group in 2019 because I was struggling with my own vision loss. Like Lindsay, I have retinitis pigmentosa, but I'm actually the only person in my family who's affected. I, until this group, never actually met anybody who had a retinal disease or low vision. And so this group has really been critical for me to ask questions really from people who have gone through the journey. I know, as Julie said, these seminars are really helpful just about education. And it's wonderful to participate in things like the Scramble for Sight and the Vision Walk to know that really the community is coming together to raise money for a cure. So I highly encourage you, if you want to get involved, please do. You don't actually need to volunteer, have a leadership position or volunteer. We welcome anyone to join our monthly support groups. And like Lindsay said, thank you to our speakers. I'm really excited to hear your presentation, and thank you everyone to taking time out of your Saturday to join our speaker series.
Thank you, Megan. And once again, I repeat, Megan and Lindsay are such great resources within the community. So please feel free to reach out to them or we'd love to have you involved. It really is a great group here in Colorado. And now I will stop ranting because it's the time everybody's been waiting for. I will hand over the floor to Greg and Tom. We are so excited and so thankful to have you speaking today. So please, the floor is yours. Take over.
Thank you. Let me share my screen here. See if I get the steps correct or not. Give it a second and hopefully you can see that and just get it on the slideshow here. All right. Well, thank you very much, Julie and Lindsay, for extending the invitation to Dr. Pusateri and myself to present what we feel is a real important part of of living with low vision. We all kind of want the fix, and so sometimes we miss the days in between of just how do you live with it. What's the best strategies to do so? So hopefully you'll find this helpful as we kind of move through the program. We have no corporate disclosures. Nobody's paying us any money to do this, unfortunately, right, Greg? So no, we're happy to give our time for this topic. Perspective. I have a picture up there on the screen of kind of a classic psychology optical illusion type of picture. It's a picture that actually was sketched by some German illustrator and left anonymously, supposedly, at a cafe in Germany. It's been changed and colored and adapted in lots of different ways, but it shows a picture, if you look at it with some perspective, of a young lady kind of looking away from you. And then there's another profile picture of an older lady. Kind of always reminds me of someone in Russia with a larger nose, and you can kind of switch back and forth from a younger to older. It's an interesting perspective of what people see and how long they can see one versus the other.
Yeah, so perspective. This is a great illustration. I think, here you got a guy on an island waiting to get off. He sees a boat, he's all excited, yeah. And then yet the guy in the boat who's looking for an island, he's all excited and he sees it. So really depends on what you're looking at. And from Tom and I, that really is, one of the things we do in low vision is we're always trying to help people learn to focus on what they have, not what they've lost. So perspective really is important. And, Helen Keller, a great quote from her, alone we can do so little, yet together we can do so much.
So sight is really truly an amazing gift. If you just think about it, you have a spectrum of light, a visible spectrum, we call them photons of light that enter the eye. And that light gets refracted by the first surface of the eye called the cornea. It goes through the empty area called the pupil, and it gets refracted again, that light does, by the lens inside the eye. And that light gets focused to the back of the eye to a surface that we call the retina. And I have a picture of a beautiful looking retina with no eye disease whatsoever. And then that retina takes that light and just works its magic. It changes that light to electrical signals and sends those signals instantaneously through a complex maze within the brain, all the way back to the base of the brain to an area we call the visual cortex. And all of that is in an effort for the human eye to see detail, to perceive things small and fine print in a detailed way, but to also give us a wide view of our world, like looking through a wide angle lens.
Yeah, and that is all a wonderful thing, as Tom said. And I don't know, I tell patients all the time, vision is not something we have to think about, right? It's not a thing we make a decision to stand up and walk. We open our eyes and we can go until we can't. And when, like, each one of us experiences loss in our own way. I kind of joke with patients. Sometimes I feel like I'm at an AA meeting and I should stand up and say, "Hi, my name is Greg. I have cone rod dystrophy," because I do have vision loss. And that's one of the things that helps us to be able to communicate with people, is that we walk this journey with you. When we look at vision impairment, what is that? What are we talking about? Well, we've got a great definition here that says, functional limitation of the eyes or visual system resulting in reduced visual acuity, contrast sensitivity, and or peripheral field loss. And that's a tough thing to deal with. We all grew up in a society built on cure. We go to the doctor, we expect them to give us something to make it better. And unfortunately, we don't have stuff like that for the eyes yet. Right now, it's not correctable by prescriptions, by medications, by surgery. And that means that vision is now inadequate for the individual's functional needs. And what does that mean? Very simply, it's probably one of the most common things that Dr. Tom and I hear is when people come to us, they say, "I can't see to do the things I want or need to do." There's 3 levels that this impacts in our lives in a very powerful way. Obviously, physically, our ability to be mobile, to get around. Many of us lose the freedom and privilege of being able to drive. The economic effect, because it may affect our profession or our job. Therefore, we may not have as much income because of that. And then, of course, probably the most powerful one of all is the emotional. There is no fix. There's no medication that can change it right now. And what does that happen? That leads to fear, and that can lead to depression. When eye disease causes a visual impairment to anyone, it is an unfortunate circumstance. However, when an eye disease causes vision impairment to you, it's a life-changing event. So this is, here is a picture of a much younger Dr. Gregg when graduating from optometry school. And I went into this field because I grew up with my grandmother, aunt, uncle, and my father all having vision loss. And I watched them struggle because they didn't have the tools that we have available to us today. And I was able to help people in that way until in 1994, I was watching a Chicago Bulls game and reached up to itch my head and blocked one eye and noticed that the whole television screen was distorted and it did not clear up. Eventually, within a couple of weeks, obviously, I went in, was checked. The diagnosis was made that I had the same retinal degeneration, inherited retinal disease that was in the family. And then I had to face the fact that I might not be able to continue doing what I did, and the transition began. I'm a person of faith, so I honestly, prayed about this and was trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do? There's challenges, as each and every one of you know. When your vision changes, your whole world changes, because now all of a sudden maybe you can't see to do things the way you used to do them. So what do you do with that? Well, at that time, I felt a call to go into pastoral ministry. So here is another picture, a little bit older, and now it's Reverend Dr. Gregg, because I graduated from seminary with my master's in divinity. And I truly believe this was how God was preparing me. I was called then to be the senior pastor of this large Wisconsin rural church, central Wisconsin, the Alto Reformed Church. And I was there for nearly 10 years. At the end of that time, again, transition. I moved back to Chicago, and the door opened up for me to go to work at the Spectrios Institute for Low Vision. So back into optometry, except in the field I wanted to work in the most, and that was working with people who had suffered vision loss. And all of these things prepared me in a very powerful way for what would become my next steps, and that was to eventually lead me here and take on the practice that Dr. Tom founded and set up just a tremendous a bar to reach, really, to help people with low vision. And he started it as Low Vision Services of Southern Colorado, and it's now transitioning into the new name, New Horizons Low Vision Center. And I feel very blessed to be able to work with people every day and help them see that there is still really hope.
Thanks, Greg, for sharing that. So just so you know, Greg and I are both based here in Colorado Springs. I don't think we've told you that, but that's our home. So changing perspective. For my story, this is a picture of me as a graduate of Indiana University College of Optometry back in 1985. And right after graduation, my wife and I got married. We're both from Wisconsin, and we thought it'd be interesting to have an adventure west. So we ventured out to Southern Colorado, the Pikes Peak area, and I was able to start my practice in primary care optometry. But similar to Dr. Gregg, I was at an Air Force football game in the fall after I graduated from optometry school. And in my case, I was watching the football game and someone blocked my view of my left eye, of my right eye. And I noticed things were very distorted. And like Dr. Gregg said, I did a couple checks, and that distortion was the beginning of some of the changes that I had in my diagnosis. So it was not clear cut. There was no family history of eye disease in my case. So I had nothing to kind of go back to. We knew there was central distortion. We call it cystoid macular edema in my left eye. We didn't know what that was from. So my retinal specialist had me travel. I went to the University of Chicago. I went to the National Eye Institute in Bethesda, Maryland. And then I ended up going to Bascom Palmer in Miami. All of them had different ideas of what was going on in my eye. They thought it was inflammatory and it would burn out eventually. But one doctor at Bascom Palmer, Dr. Don Gass, basically diagnosed me of having what they call a tapedo, or an inherited retinal degeneration, that I not only had in my left eye, but I also had in my right eye. And his words were, I'd be blind within a few decades. That was a tough diagnosis to hear, and I didn't believe him. I believed the other ones were the inflammatory and it was going to burn itself out. So we went through a lot of transition. I was able to practice clinically in primary care for about 7 years until my better right eye, per Dr. Gass's prediction, did start losing central vision as well, to the point of legal blindness. And at that point, my retinal specialist said, Tom, I really can't back you into performing primary care optometry, providing primary care optometry any longer, and you need to find another direction. And that was a critical challenge, because at that point I had one little boy, about 2.5, and a newly born, beautiful little girl. We had a new mortgage, and their life was totally upside down. And as you all know from those feelings that I know these are conjuring up in your mind of your realization of your vision loss, they are significant challenges. But the same retinal specialist that told me that I couldn't practice primary care also had an idea. He said, we need some low vision care down here in southern Colorado. There's nothing available, and maybe I can help you do that. And with the true blessing of the Colorado Board of Optometry that allowed me to maintain my licensure, I was able to open low vision services of southern Colorado, and for the past 27 years provide what I think has been not so much what I provided, but what I got from patients that I come in, see if we could problem solve and work through their issues, was an absolute meaningful and blessed part of my life, without a doubt. So perspectives for both Dr. Gregg and myself changed dramatically. We went into eye care thinking about vision, and came out of eye care thinking about low vision, no vision, blindness, things that normally you don't think about when you're going through optometric care. So our perspectives have been changed forever. So people are dealing with permanent visual impairment. Dr. Gregg and myself believe are the most underserved population in eye care. I can speak to, after 27 years of knowing the trials of how people got and found our offices and help, and trying to find help and moving through their vision loss process, was amazing. One was a cousin of a meter maid. I'll never forget that one, told about our office. It's just something that we are trying hard to make as more informative for people, so they know there are so many options out there and aren't underserved, so you can have dialogue with your eye care professionals about the wonderful services that are happening, not just in southern Colorado, but throughout the state and throughout the country. So I was part of a program through the Colorado Optometric Association back in the early 2000s, where we developed a program, and we call it CCVIP, or Continued Care for our visually impaired patients. And that's what we're going to spend the rest of our time today, is walking you through that program. How do you move people with vision loss through their issues? People always come into our offices and they'll basically say, why am I here? Why, am I seeing another eye doctor? I just came from 2 or 3 other eye doctors. So when we use the 3-step process, 1, 2, 3. The first step in that process is primary eye care, which we'll talk about in just a second, providing ongoing eye care. The second step is the low vision care, what Gregg is providing, and I provided down here in Colorado Springs for decades. And the third step is in-home and what I call out of home or in the work area vision rehabilitation services. And we're going to walk through that process starting with eye care. Stabilizing. When we talk about eye care, we're talking about your regular eye doctor, your optometrist, your ophthalmologist, but also your secondary eye professionals. It could be a glaucoma specialist, a retinal specialist, a neuro-ophthalmologist. But those people are integral into helping you maintain the vision that you still have. And one of them is starting with a prescription, is starting with what we call a prescription or a pair of glasses as a foundation to everything as we move forward. When we work with low vision, we need a good pair of glasses to work from, and we'll explain that more as we talk. So getting that is one really important piece of information. The other way, what a good pair of glasses could do is take away the blur. All acuity is important. So even though you may not be correctable down to 20/20, 20/40, even 2100, in my case it's 2200, I still want to see 2200. I want to see the best I'm able to. And sometimes the glasses will do that. Even though the glasses don't do what they used to do for us, they can still take away some blur and give us a little bit of sharpness that we don't have without them as we move through our world. Also, we want to ensure that there are no other, I missed the N and no there, but there are no other eye health care, eye health issues going on. Are there any underlying cataracts, or is there some underlying glaucoma that is going on that's complicating our eye disease process? So that's what primary and secondary eye care will do for you. And also just to receive proper medical treatment. If there is anything to help, we want to make sure we're exhausting all those possibilities to ensure that you have the best care possible. And it's also you understanding what you can do to maintain eye health care, eating a good diet and fruits and vegetables, and maintaining a good amount of exercise to help the circulatory system and nourish then that retinal tissue. Don't smoke, and if you do, lessen the amount, and don't start if you don't, please, because we know that exacerbates that whole eye or vision loss issue. And if there are vitamins that can help from macular degeneration, other types to help support that retina that is healthy, extremely important to take an active approach to helping you deal with both mentally but also physically with your eye health issues. And then now genetic testing, and Julie talked about the My Retina Tracker program. We're getting so much more information about genes that are affected by our inherited retinal diseases. And it's not 100%, but it does give us a guide of when gene therapies do come about, of maybe how it's going to help us or not help us, depending on how and what genes are affected. I just went through this personally. The end of last year, there were over 350 genes now that they check for mutations. They ran another battery of tests for me, and I'm still in that smaller percentage. It's still, I think, about 20% that they can't find a gene that's mutated. So they call me atypical. I have an atypical form of inherited retinal disease. But genetic testing, I would advocate for as being extremely important. And tune in next weekend to that national conference, because it can be extremely beneficial to hear more about that. Greg, I'll turn it over to you as we move into step 2 of continuing the care for people with visual impairment.
Yeah, so this is the blessing for Tom and I, and that is, when those glasses don't give people what they want anymore. And, Tom and I have heard this question, thousands of times. Can't you just give me stronger glasses? And I always explain to people, you have to remember that glasses and contact lenses only maximize the potential that your eyes have. Unfortunately, all of us have had some form of a retinal degeneration that has decreased the potential, or the analogy I like to use with people is, most of us grew up in an era with cameras that had film. If you open up the back of the camera, the film is overexposed and it can never take a good picture again. Well, the retina is the inside lining of the back of the eye, which is like the wallpaper on the inside of the eye. And a part of that retina has been overexposed by the degeneration that we experience. Because of that, it cannot take a good, clear picture anymore. So even though glasses are focusing the light back there, part of the film just is not capable of bringing it back to the clarity it used to be. When that happens, that's when rehabilitation care, like low vision care, it becomes the next best step for people to find that there are all kinds of tools that can help people with their vision. And it's one of the greatest blessings that I have, is to be able to work with people. Tom and I talk with people all the time about having a toolbox, and the idea of, I always tell patients, they're like an apprentice carpenter when they come to my office. Even though they haven't had vision loss maybe for very long, they've figured out how to do things one way or another. And so we kind of say, well, you've kind of figured out, one tool for how you do this and one for that. So you're kind of starting to amass your own tool set. Our job is to help introduce you to all the tools that might be available and then direct you toward the specific section of tools that are going to work in your case. Not unlike a person wants to go and get a new dress or a new suit and they have it cut and sewn to fit them perfectly. Well, our job is to not just say, okay, here's all of these, just pick something. We want to make sure that we tailor an individual rehabilitation plan to perfectly suit each person. What tools would they need to accomplish their activities of daily living? And this picture here that Tom put up is a great picture because, you know, to build a bridge, you have to be able to have the right tools to be able to put each piece of, so that you can get from one side to the other. So you're in one place now. How can you get where you can accomplish your activities of daily living on the other side of that river? Our job, introduce you to that. So now we're going to have some fun. We get to talk about what are all these different options that people have today. And we talk about optical magnification. Today, we have the great blessing of being able to talk about traditional optics versus electronic, all right? So today we've got people who have all different kinds of things. We can offer new things depending on what your vision level is. Sometimes simply reading glasses that are actually stronger than what you can buy at a store may be the best option for a person, and it gives them some hands-free ability to work for doing crafts or projects, or having a task lamp like that sitting there. And this is yeah, that's okay, Tom. You can advance that. That's fine.
Yeah. So what we like to do is to kind of, instead of just throwing all these different devices in front of you, is just trying to personalize it a little bit about bringing you into our world, kind of our personal world, and what we use and why we use it for with specific options. It's just me inviting you into my home, which I'm sitting in right now as well. So I love my hands-free reading glasses. I use them. They're about a +6. So you go to the drugstore, you see a rack of about a +3, a +1 to about a +3. That's the conventional for people reading glasses for people who don't have really any visual impairment. We have glasses, Greg and myself, going from about a +1 to a +40. So we can get really strong in reading glasses. The problem is, as you go stronger in reading glasses, you have to get closer, because the reading glasses don't make things bigger. It's your proximity to the print that makes things larger. The closer you get, the larger it becomes, and you need a stronger pair of reading glasses to help you focus that closer distance. So this is me on the kitchen table, probably about a maybe 6 to 7 inch working distance, just completing a check, using those glasses to provide some clarity for me, makes that check a little larger and makes it easier to complete.
So yeah, I wanted to tell people we had to pay out that actor playing Dr. Tom's part a great deal to get him to pose for all these pictures.
Yeah, great.
We appreciated that. And it was great. If you back that up for a second, Tom, I'd like to point something out. In the picture, like Tom said, this is perfect because he's, like he said, 6 or 7 inches. Well, and he talked about a closer working distance. Honestly, if any of you take the power of your reading glasses and divide it into 40, it's going to tell you where you're probably supposed to be starting to look for your best focal ability with that pair of glasses on. With Tom, he's got a 6, it's going to be 6 or 7 inches. Okay, if you have an 8, it's 5 inches. If you have a 4, it's 10 inches. So they're all different. So, and most people don't know that. Oftentimes they're given a stronger, quote unquote, bifocal by their doctor, but the doctor never explains that now that he's given them something stronger, they have to hold it closer. And then unfortunately, people think, well, they don't work, there's no help for me. When actually, if they would have realized they were supposed to bring it closer, it may have gotten them better vision. And sometimes Tom and I show them that and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could see that much with these glasses. Even if they need stronger, it's still better. So having this type of a simple, hands-free type of magnification is a tremendous help.
And Greg, and just for one of the, I had a student from the School for the Blind that I worked with, and he was an amazing user of a +40 lens. It's a 10x pair of, and something is put in a frame, but you can imagine a pair of the 10X is right at the nose. You have to almost have it right at the eye. It's that close. And his mom said, he ended up being a journalism major actually. And his mom said he loved to read the newspaper back when we read the newspaper. But he always had an ink spot on his nose. So again, if your nose gets too big, I have a larger nose. You can't hold it too close because the nose impedes it. But the bottom line is, the stronger that pair of glasses, the closer you can hold it. But the closer you can hold it, the larger the print becomes, and the more effective that tool potentially could become for someone.
Yeah, and that brings up another point that when Tom and I show people this, and he'll tell you he's heard this probably hundreds of thousands of times, but I don't want to hold it like that. Okay, well, sometimes I talk with patients about, when I was a little boy and I would do certain things, my mom or dad would say to me, well, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. In other words, if there is a solution, you have to be willing to do things differently. You might still be able to accomplish the same things, but you got to be willing to be an old dog who's willing to learn new tricks. And that's when we introduce people to these types of things. One question we always get is about, can't you just give me, new glasses, or can't you just give me one of those great big magnifiers? Well, there's also another property of optics that is a physical property that cannot be changed. And that is that as we increase the power of a lens, that is done through the curvature of the lens. And as the lens power increases, the actual physical size of the lens gets smaller. Okay, so the larger it is, usually the weaker it is. So Tom and I will always work to do our very best to keep people in the largest lens possible while getting them the best possible vision. Okay, and you're going to see that today, most of the time, Tom and I will always prescribe a magnifier that's got an LED light. So people have the ability to turn that light on. When you turn light on, it increases contrast, which brings another property into play. And that is, if you increase contrast, you decrease your need for magnification. If you decrease your need for magnification, you can have a little bit larger lens. So we might find that somebody does great with a 3x magnifier with the light on, but without a light, they might need 4, 5, maybe 6. And so what's happening, that lens is getting smaller. So always looking to find that person, the best handheld tool in this case, with an LED light. It's phenomenal today because, you don't have to replace the bulbs with an LED light anymore, just the batteries, and they last so much longer that it's a great system for people.
So these are the larger field magnifiers that sometimes are non-illuminated, so you have to use them with a lamp. I use my larger field magnifier a lot when I'm on my computer. I just feel more comfortable seeing a regular size screen on the computer and then just bringing in a magnifying glass with my left hand to magnify that area I want to see, as long as I'm not doing obviously typing, but I'm really doing more scrolling and spotting within that. So I use a handheld magnifier a lot in my offhand. With my being right hand, I use my mouse in my right hand. If I'm typing, obviously I don't. I'll use enlargement on the screen, and I'll get closer with some reading glasses. But when I don't have to, I'll use that handheld magnifier many times. And then we move into the smaller fields. Greg, you want to move into the smaller field?
Can you back that up just real quick, showing you holding that magnifier?
Yeah.
So something else, and this is interesting because most of you with RP would probably, I'm guessing, function just like Tom, where it's actually not having the whole screen magnified is actually more beneficial. So either using a magnifier like this, or most of the magnification software programs now, both either Windows or Apple, have the ability to make that cursor a small magnifier on your screen now. Where for me, I need more magnification in a larger view. So this one doesn't work as well for me as much as enlarging the whole screen. But the beauty of this today is you can set it for whatever works best for your eyes. And we can teach people that. It's a phenomenal time. There's never been a better time in history if you're going to have vision loss than now, because of all of the options that are available. So I really appreciate that Tom put this picture in, because it's a great illustration of you can do it. You just have to find what's the way that's going to work for you.
And understand that, again, the complication we have in working with visual impairment is the span goes from beginnings of early vision loss all the way to total blindness, right? And then you have the age group that goes all the way from birth all the way until death, right? So you have a whole spectrum of age and personality and generations of what people are comfortable for and with and not. And then you also have the spectrum of vision loss. So it's our job as low vision professionals to provide the options that customize for you, like Greg spoke about before. It's really important. When you walk into a store filled with low vision products, it's really hard. In fact, it's overwhelming, and then sometimes it's depressing because you don't know where to start. And because of the internet, it's so Greg, between Greg and I, we don't have, I have RP, and many of you on this, the Zoom have RP as well, but none of us have it alike, right? With our amount of central vision loss, our amount of peripheral field loss. And so we're all unique, and then we're all motivated uniquely as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we go to small field magnifiers. And these are really kind of the things that we talk about. We oftentimes refer to them as they're the really portable, they're the pocket magnifiers. And these are honestly probably three of my favorites. They're probably three of the most popular that you see there. Again, each one has an LED light. And what's good about that is this magnifier can work for anybody, because if a person has a problem with photosensitivity and too much light's not good, they don't have to turn the light on, but the magnifier is a great portable size to get them a small field. What's important about that is, oftentimes people come in, and Tom can attest to this, they're trying to read for an extended period of time with a handheld magnifier. And we try to teach people that, it's really a spotting tool. It's meant for short-term reading, but not really meant for long-term. No, I will tell you, as Tom probably has, I've had some people who know that's the only thing I want. I don't mind reading an entire book or a newspaper like that. It's just that it's more labor intensive to do it, but we're still going to work to find whatever magnifier can get a person to, for example, he's got newspaper under there. That's a specific size print, okay? And we always like to get people into, and actually a little better, if possible, than what it is they're trying to read. So we know that when they leave and go home, they're going to be able to navigate whatever reading material they're trying to use. So these are great small field handheld magnifiers to be able to use.
I love my handheld magnifier. It's always in my pocket. It's one of my favorite tools to use. This is a picture of me at the grocery store checking out my favorite kind of M&Ms. I'm a cost shopper, so I love to know how much I'm getting, not just the total amount I'm paying, but per ounce or whatever. Drives my wife absolutely crazy. So I don't do it as much now, but I do love to help spot those things, and the magnifier allows me to do that. But again, it's a host of different things that we can do for spotting this and spotting that, and I use it every day.
Yeah, and I like Tom, it's kind of funny because we'll talk a little while about what are some of our favorites. And I didn't even put it on my list. And I kind of shake my head now because sitting in front of me on my desk are two of my magnifiers. I have one in my pocket. I don't leave home without it, so.
It's that low tech, Greg, like you're talking about. It doesn't need to be charged.
Yeah.
Don't have to turn it on. It's just boom, there it is. Flip the switch, there's a light. And it's just that, having a low tech option isn't always a bad idea. It doesn't do everything, but it's nice to have in your toolbox for sure.
Yeah, and sometimes, I think people, they know in their heart that this tool works for them. But I will have some people say, but I don't want people to see me using this. I really understand that. It's a horse pill to swallow sometimes, that you have to take some of these tools out to use them. But part of that, I want to encourage you to work on conquering that and not letting that impact you, because you don't want to let your vision loss define who you are. You want to make the decision that you're not going to be defined by your vision loss, but what you're still able to do. Okay, and these are tools that can help you succeed. And that's the way I want you to view this. Okay, now we're talking about, again, we're back to large field, except that notice this is a different type of a magnifier. These are called stand magnifiers. You always see people holding a magnifier up. Sometimes Tom and I kind of laugh because people are holding it 12 inches away when it's really only supposed to be about 3, and they're saying, I can't see. And then we move it into the paper and they're like, oh, well, yeah, now I can see it. And this is a stand magnifier, which means when you put this down on the page or whatever it is that you're trying to read, it is already set for the exact distance it needs to be to give you the clearest vision through that particular device. And it's very helpful, especially if somebody has like an essential tremor, a handshake, they don't have a steady hand. This is a perfect tool for someone like that, because now they hold it on the page and there is no shake. And they can navigate whatever they're trying to read better.
And I have my little 5X stand magnifier sitting on my favorite chair. It's really my mail reader. When the mail comes, I just pull out, flip on the LED light, put it right against the print, and go through that mail. So this is a picture of me, of me doing that. Going back to Gregg's point on the, what's the good part of having visual impairment is that it's a hidden disability, right? We don't need to expose that disability to anybody out there if we don't want to. But by pulling out a magnifier, by pulling out a white cane, which we'll talk about later, do those things, all of a sudden now we tell people we have something going on, for good or for bad. And that isn't an easy thing to do. I don't care how old you are, younger, older. Sometimes you think, oh, if you're older, it's easier to, no, we have the same issues. People living in retirement communities won't pull out there because they're, nervous about how people are going to think of them having a sight loss. So it is an emotional roller coaster that we all challenge ourselves with. To me, Gregg, it's bang for the buck. If that device allows me to do something that I can't do otherwise, or someone else that has to do for me, man, it's worth bringing it out and using it. And it's worth, especially for my wife, so she doesn't have to do it. So it's a matter of understanding what the risk benefit or the bang for the buck is. And for most of us, we understand that and we don't mind using it. And if someone has a problem with it, you know what, I can't change that. If they want to ask me about it, let's talk. But it's bottom line is, I got to do and we got to do what's best for ourselves. And having these tools allows us to access so much more information than we would otherwise.
Yeah, and to Tom's point there, I think what's important as well is when we take those things out and we think about that, which one of us hasn't felt especially when we first had the diagnosis made and we're first going through that transition and the challenges we talked about of not feeling like the walls were closing in and we had to keep up giving this and I had to give up that, and you felt like your world was shrinking and you're not able to do what you used to be able to do. And well, these tools allow you to take your independence back, okay, and maintain your independence. And when somebody does come up and ask, just like Tom said, I'm like, yeah, bring it on, because you know what? That gives you the opportunity to educate them about people who have vision loss. I guarantee you, they know people in their own life who do. And now you can tell them about these tools, where you got them, and how that can help people. That can translate into getting the word out, because what Tom said about being the most underserved is such a powerfully important understanding that we have to get out to people. There is help for people if they can get directed to low vision care. Now we've talked about traditional optics. This is where the world really starts to open up, because now we get to talk about electronic magnification. I told you before about how the physical size of the lens changes as the power goes up. Well, look at these devices on the screen. These are portable electronic magnifiers. And the beauty of this is the size of that screen is never going to change. But the power is built in the high definition camera that's there, because now that gives people multiple levels of magnification without the screen size ever changing. Okay, that is a huge leap forward. And that means we are actually able to circumvent the laws of physics and help people get magnification. And what again is important, this is all self-illuminated. It's got lighting to it. And you can, as you can see between the two pictures, one's got reverse contrast, one has regular. These things can be set to different colors depending on which color cones you may have lost. Certain colors are going to pop better for you. And these tools today make it easy for us to be able to help get it set up for a person. And these two that he's showing you right here, what's amazing about them really, all of the manufacturers in these are the 5-inch line. They come in 7, they come in 10 and larger, but the 5-inch line fit perfectly into a man's shirt pocket, easily into a woman's purse. So portable electronic magnification is a tremendous change today. Now look at the screen again. Now we're talking about desktops because those do the same thing. Here's a desktop. Some people call them CCTVs. Some people call them reading machines. They are electronic video magnifiers. Look at that crossword puzzle. That's a whole lot bigger than the actual physical size that's underneath the camera laying down on the table. Desktop magnification. Go ahead, Tom.
I think it's a Sudoku puzzle.
Oh, a Sudoku puzzle. There you go. All right. So, yeah. So, I mean, it just makes life easier. And you saw, and you're going to see a picture of that when you see Dr. Tom's area. This is talking about a new advance in the same idea of the technology. The picture on the left is a different type of electronic magnifier because the camera is on the outside. We call these ARM-based CCTVs or video magnifiers. But both of these, the 10-inch portable on the right side, both have text to speech. In other words, what that means is it could literally take a picture of the page or the letter that you got in the mail or your bill, and anything that's in actual physical print, not handwritten. It can scan that, and then inside of a few seconds, it will verbally read it back to a person. What if your vision's changed further, where those don't seem to work quite as effectively, or you have to make the magnification so large that you're only reading like 3 or 4 letters out of a word that has 6 or 7? Well, then you're getting into an area where maybe we need to start moving more into using our ears than our eyes. All right. These different venues here, the Bard mobile app, Learning Ally, Audible, that all of these that are on here, Colorado Talking Books, and I'm missing the other one here, Tom.
Yeah, the other one is the Audio Information Network.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. So those all are able to get people information by hearing it. Okay, like that one he just mentioned, they actually read the newspaper to you. So if you are a newspaper reader, you don't have to give it up. Yes, you have to maybe relinquish control of being able to just do it yourself, but you could get it and it's read to you every day. Learning Ally, or Ally, depending on how you want to pronounce that, is where students especially make use of this because you can get any book from Library of Congress that's recorded, and now they're able to get through their academic career by listening to their books. Audible.com, I've been a member since 2007, and I've done 2 books a month since 2007 through Audible.com. It's a great opportunity for people. The Bard Mobile works in sync with the Colorado Talking Books Library. It's an app that goes on your phone or your tablet or possibly your computer, and it has the same look as what your player is going to look like, the physical player that you actually get from the Talking Books program. So voice output is a tremendous way to get through things. I love my Audible books.
As do I. So I always have a book going. So that's a picture on the left. It's a picture of my iPad using the Bard Mobile that again has the display of like Greg said of the player, the normal player, but much more portable. You can download books, as opposed to having to get them sent through the mail. So works pretty effectively. The picture on my right is myself working on. I have a desktop. Closed circuit television or electronic video magnifier in my basement that I use is not portable, but when I have something I have to get through, I have a document or I have a journal article I'm trying to get through, that's where I'm going. It allows me to take a breath and feel like I can move through that article much more effectively than I can. Auditory, I like but sometimes it comes at you too fast. You don't retain things, so can't really take notes as well. So the CCTV still is extremely effective for me. Now we're going to take a little breath, Greg, okay? Because now we're going to into the whole different world, right, of accessible computer technology, which has really changed. I'll speak for just Greg being in it for 27 years, how the last probably 10 years with digital devices getting better and better and better has changed how we do low vision. And it's at a whole nother category and options of how we compare it to the things that we just spoke about between optical magnifiers, head mounted or hands-free, handheld and stand, and then going into electronic video magnifiers from portable to desktop to speech to speech output. So Greg, I'll let you dive into the accessible computer technology.
Yeah, so and I love this slide, clarify before you magnify. So, one of the things when they come in that we are still going to do for people, if they haven't had prescription checked recently, we always want to do that to make sure that we've maximized their vision. Because we don't want a variable out there where we're trying to find magnifiers, and actually maybe the glasses could have been tweaked to get them a little bit better. So on that card there, which is the card that we use, we want to get that person as far into the smallest type of print that they're able to read. So now we know we've got that portion maximized, because then we can move into this new technology today that's available to us. It's an amazing world.
Yeah, and Greg, so many times when people come in, they have a whole host of reading glasses, right? That they just they don't work, or they don't think their bifocals work anymore. But once we can magnify things larger on the, let's say, their smartphone, and then they put on their glasses, all of a sudden they say, wow, that makes things look a lot sharper. And that's the point. It doesn't give us enough magnification in regular bifocals to get small print. But if we can make the print larger using electronic video device or a digital device, now those bifocals have a whole new life to them once again.
Yeah. So accessible computer technology, here you go.
Yep. We start with smartphones here, Greg. So
yeah, and this is a game changer. Okay, this now, I tell people all the time, I don't know that they realize, and then when we introduce them to the vision accessibility that is built into these phones today, Tom's got a picture here. On the top are the Apple iPhones. Below that are the Android cell phones. And these app photos of the icons that he has here, very important. The first one is Supervision Plus. That's a magnifying app that can be used on the Android phone or the Apple, though the next one over is the magnifier that's built into every Apple product. Most recently, now they have a separate icon so people can immediately pull it up on their iPhone, their iPad. And then there's Seeing AI, which is available on all of the platforms. This is actually put out by Microsoft. It's still, even in a beta form, they're still improving it. AI is short for artificial intelligence, and it has a whole host of different things it's able to do, to magnify things, to look at barcodes. It's actually got a pretty decent text-to-speech feature. You can hold it up and it uses the camera to describe the room that's in front of you, or if there's a person sitting in front of you. So they keep improving the technology all the time. And I tell people that when you carry one of these around in your pocket, you are carrying around the Swiss Army knife for people who have vision loss, because it can do so many different things. Oftentimes people have said, oh, I had to give that up. And I'm like, well, let me show you some things. And then all of a sudden they're like, I need to get that back.
Yeah. And Greg, I was going to say on Seeing AI, is it Android based now? It used to be just Apple based it's a Microsoft product, but I know it works on the Apple product. Is it work on Android too now?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about that on the Android now that you say that.
Okay.
I'm not positive. I'll have to check that out.
And one of the things that I missed on this slide too was the KNFB reader put up by the National Federation of the Blind. Again, is a very powerful and robust text-to-speech option that a lot of people use on their phones. But bottom line is using smartphones, right, to enable us to do so much more than we could do otherwise without them.
Yeah, and the KNFB reader, like Tom said, that was a collaborative effort between Dr. Kurzweil and the National Federation for the Blind. Well, Dr. Kurzweil is the man who invented text-to-speech. So it's a very accurate app. There's a difference in price between the Apple and the Android versions. On the Apple, it's $100 to buy the app. It's a one-time fee, but it's a tremendously fabulous app. I have it on all my devices. On Android, it's only $20. And the reason for that is that Google had actually contributed money toward the development of that. So they're able to give people a discount on it. But it is absolutely one of those apps you want to put in your quiver, another arrow to be able to use. So here are, again, those apps and in a picture that's really kind of a great picture. You're going to see this picture of this stand here in a number of the slides coming up. This is called the iGo stand. It's a very, very, very nice stand that you can either clamp your smartphone or your tablet into, and it's very flexible as far as the position you put it into. You're going to see some pictures with Dr. Tom using his, but I want to put a little plug in there that this was done by one of the reps that Tom and I have as a good friend. His name is Brian Smith of Magnesite of the Rockies, and in cooperation with Dr. Tom, helping to develop this. Each time Brian came up with a model, Tom would take it, he would look, he would evaluate it, try it, and then he would make suggestions on how it could be improved. And it's continued to evolve, and it's a very light device. It's very inexpensive overall compared to most of them, very competitive, but a very, very useful tool.
Yeah, and I'll just say, and again, there's no business relation between this, but on the left-hand side is my iPad with a large print Bluetooth keyboard, but using it on a stand, almost like a desktop computer, which can be very effective. Now, if you just want to do that, there are a host of stands out there on Amazon that you can get for far less money. If you just want to put it on the kitchen counter, look at a recipe and it's upright all the time, it's when you pull it forward and use it at the camera for a reading or writing device is what separates this stand. So I just want to make sure, as we'll kind of talk about that more as we go through, but using a tablet, obviously very, very effective. For me, I use it as I make it into a hands-free device that way. On the left-hand picture, what I'm doing is I'm taking that iPad on the stand now, but I'm pulling the whole arm of the stand forward and moving the camera parallel to the reading material down below it. I hope that makes sense. If you can visualize that, kind of pulling it down so I can put print underneath it as I move. So I'm using it almost like a CCTV. Doesn't work as effectively. The camera still loses a little focus here or there, but it can give you some short reading abilities, looking at mail and those kinds of things. It can be pretty effective that way. If you do that with one of those regular Amazon stands without the base to it, as you pull that forward, it's going to tip over. The weight of the iPad pulls it forward and it doesn't work that way. So bottom line is, again, that's why this stand is more money. I think it runs about $195 or something, $195, because of that platform on the bottom allows you to move it down. It claps it down, and we really tried to design it. Brian designed it for students so they could throw it in a backpack, bring it out in class, put their iPad on and use that iPad to look far away and to read and write underneath it as well. So that's kind of the design process of that.
Yeah, and one thing real quick before you say that, Tom.
Yeah.
One of the things that Brian did with this as well, Brian was in manufacturing for 20 years before he also started losing his vision, okay? And he also has on this, you can't see it, but all the little bolts are with an Allen wrench type, Allen head. So he actually has this built with the Allen wrench right there for you. So if anything ever loosens up, you're able to tighten it right back up right away. So a lot of thought has been put into this device. And I love that Tom's got pictures in here and showing you how he's using this. So
yeah, it's just a checkbook, trying to just using it to just complete a check. Again, so many times our patients will come in with a tablet of some kind. Could be an Android tablet, could be an iPad, but again, this allows us to use that expensive tablet in many cases, but use it for more potential activities than the person was using prior. So it just adds more options to them in their toolbox.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Desktop
So-
computer.
Yeah. Yeah. So with
Cool.
desktop computers, we've got options here as well. Here we've got the different browsers. You've got Firefox, you've got Bing, you've got Chrome, you've got Safari. And all of these now, one of the things that's starting to grow more and more is people's awareness that there are people who don't see well and they need to be able to enhance their screen. And there are ways that can do that. Tom, why don't you tell them how you enhance when you're using your Windows program?
Yeah, so again, on the Windows program, Windows 10, Windows 11, the Windows has a fairly decent magnifier to it called the Windows magnifier, and you can Google it and get more specific information on it. But if you press the Windows key on the keyboard, it's right next to the Control key, and hold that down and hit the plus, that engages the Windows magnifier. Now, if you hit the plus again, it'll magnify. And sometimes the magnification is set for 100% increase, and it makes it way too big. And people don't like that very much at all. So if that's happening, you want to use it, there are ways to go into the settings options for the Windows magnifier and change the increments down to 10% increments as opposed to 100% increments. So you can do smaller increases and not be blown away, because as you increase the size on the print, you're losing area, and then you have to scroll more on that 24-inch or 22-inch computer monitor. The Control Plus, you don't have to turn on the Windows magnifier if you're on the internet. You can just hit Control Plus and Control make things larger or smaller. Anything you want to add, Greg, to that?
Yeah, just with the Apple, the difference is you can actually set which key you would like to use. And then when you scroll on the mouse upward, it actually magnifies the screen in a very smooth, it's not incremental, it's almost infinitesimal as far as from the lowest amount of mag, which would be 1x, on up to more than 15 times on the screen. So it's a wonderful thing that, and I'm sure Tom would tell you the same thing about his. I couldn't do what I do with the computers without that feature. And on the Apple product, it's called Zoom. Okay. And it's fabulous. And it's built into every one of their devices. The Apple iPod, iPhone, iPad, my Apple Watch here, Apple TV, my Apple computer. They're all the same. When you learn one, you've learned them all. Android has started to improve their magnification, so there's things there as well. So it's a great time.
It is. And again, don't get overwhelmed by all this stuff. Just jot down a couple of notes. And again, you can just do a Google search real easy, or you can contact Gregg or myself and be happy to steer you to a good place if you need it. This is just a picture of what Dr. Gregg calls the cockpit. I just call my workstation, but a large print keyboard with my desktop computer on the right. And then adjacent to that, to the left, is my desktop CCTV. So I can input information like off an outline into a PowerPoint. And I still use my desktop computer, even though I use the iPad a ton. I'll use my desktop a lot when I'm doing Microsoft Office-based types of things like Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoints, those kinds of things. I just feel like I just have a better learning curve to it, and I'm more effective, I believe, and more efficient in using it, as opposed to using my touchscreen with my iPad, which has some different rules to it. And I just like to go back to my old bread and butter, so to speak.
Yeah, and I didn't give Tom a picture, but I'm sitting at my desktop computer right now, just like Tom is. I have a 32-inch monitor, and to my right, I have an ARM-based CCTV as part of my workstation / cockpit area, and I have handheld magnifiers in front of me as well. And then, of course, immediately at my right hand is my iPhone and my iPad, because a lot of people say those are attached at my hip. Now, and we're talking about, beyond the iPad, and I'll give you my opinions on that in a minute, but we have e-readers. This has been a tremendous boom for people as well. Kindle, there's two different, really, the options, the Kindle Fire or the traditional Kindle paper, where it's really more of very similar to an LCD type screen. So it really depends on your vision as to which one is really going to be the best option for you. But it does give a person a backlit or non-backlit, depending on what works best for you, and the ability to change the size of font, which is enormous for all of us. And oftentimes now they're even getting much better about giving us different font styles. Most of the time people get things and it's in Times New Roman. One of the things about Times New Roman is that the letters themselves have thinner and thicker, which is not necessarily the best for those of us with vision impairments. It's actually better if it can be uniform. It's easier for us to be able to resolve what those letters are so that we can read better. So there's the Kindle, there is the Nook, okay? And then from there you move into like Samsung Galaxy tablets and Apple iPads. And it's a great world today as far as being able to read. If a person has a Kindle or a Nook right now and you're finding it is, even with your vision impairment and you've made the changes as big as they are, please do not give up, because especially with the tablets like the Android and then the Apple, honestly, I will tell you, in my own opinion, it's the very top of the hill as far as the very best that's out there for being able to read, because you can do more in magnification with those than you're able to do with the Kindle or the Nook. So there is graduated levels. So don't give up. If you need to, like Tom said, we are available anytime somebody has a question.
Yeah, and again, what's so nice about these is you become the publisher. When you get a printed book, the publisher tells you how many pages, the font style, the font size, and the print size. But when you have an electronic book like this, you become the publisher to create it and customize it for your eyes, which is pretty cool to have that opportunity to do it. And then we get into another category, Greg, of the smart home product.
Yeah, these are some of my favorite things here. You've got both the Google and the Amazon Echo, which was really the creator of all of this. You got Google's got their own, you got multiple different ones, but Alexa enabled type devices, light bulbs, thermostats. For example, here at my house, I have my thermostat. I have a number of lights plugged into it. I can change my television channels simply by speaking out loud into one of these smart speakers. You can ask questions. You can get answers. You can order things. I can order an Uber ride, or I could order food to be delivered, or airplane tickets. I can tell it to turn my thermostat up or down, as long as you get these things that are made to work together. And you can have somebody come in and put it in. If you're not handy like that, it's not a big deal. They have window blinds that are Alexa enabled, light switches. So today, for people like you and I, this is a nice thing. Perfect example of this. My father is totally blind, lives down in Florida, and he was talking to me about how he can't adjust the thermostat. And it's sometimes it's too cold in his place, or he'd like to be able to turn it on. Well, I bought him a thermostat that was able to work with his Amazon Echo, and now all he has to do, he had a heating and air conditioning place just come and put in a thermostat for him. And it works with his Echo. He just tells it to turn it up or down, if he wants air conditioning, what he wants the temperature to, and it does it. Really, if your vision is, not the best, it really today, that's not an issue, okay? Because you can set your home up to do what you want. You can raise and lower your garage door with these things too. I mean, it just keeps expanding. They keep adding more and more ability to be able to do that.
I just like to play music, but sometimes it's nice to have something you can just talk to and get a response back auditorily, and not have to always have a visual interface of a screen to have to deal with. It's kind of a refreshing, no matter if you get it total tech like Dr. Gregg, or just using it just for the weather and some news and maybe some music. So, Greg, we have about 15 minutes, so we're gonna plow through a little bit. Greg and I both get a little chatty sometimes, but we're gonna kind of plow through a little bit on this next section. as we go. And this is just a picture of me reading my iPad. If you'd like to ask my wife, that's my position a lot. Using my +6 reading glasses, holding the iPad up, and just enjoying the content on the iPad a lot. Now we're going to move into distance viewing, looking at things far away from that aspect. And so, Greg, you want to plow into television?
Well, yeah, that's probably one of the biggest ones. People come into our office and say, I can't see the TV that good anymore. What can I do? Well, believe it or not, many times one of the simplest solutions, and I joke with people, this is going to cost you a fortune. You got to pick your chair up and move it closer. Okay. Like Tom likes to tell people, you know what? You have a 50-inch TV and you're sitting 10 feet away. Would you like to double the size of the TV and not spend any money? Move your chair up to 5 feet. You've now just used relative magnification to double the size of the TV. So that's one simple thing to do. Some people say they don't want to do that. They don't want the chair in the middle of the room. And I always tell them, you know what? When there's no company coming over, don't torture yourself. Move the chair. And then when company's going to come, put it back. But you should be able to enjoy it. I have difficulty seeing the scores in a game. Okay. Well, there are ways that we can work on trying to help improve that. There's a pair of glasses here in the middle of the screen. Those are called Max TV glasses. You can use your smartphone as another way of magnifying things on the screen in the distance, whether it's TV or other things, to be able to help you be able to see what is further away.
And sometimes, again, it's just watching TV on, in my case, an 11-inch iPad. And you say, well, if I have a 55-inch TV, why would I want to go to an 11-inch screen? And that's because I'm 1 foot away from the 11-inch screen. I'm not 10 feet away from the 55-inch screen. So effectively, that little screen becomes a 150-inch television because of its proximity to your nose. So just keep that in mind as you look at what some of those options are for you.
Yeah, and here's a couple other great options. Tom, is your vision, is it pretty equal in both eyes?
Yes.
I have a blind left eye. I only have a right eye.
Okay.
Yep.
So if your vision's pretty equal, then a pair of binoculars is actually a pretty nice thing to be able to use. To the right of that is a monocular. I use that because I do have a larger disparity between my eyes, and that's one of my favorite tools to be able to use at a sporting event or if I'm out playing golf. Because yes, I still do that. I tell the people in front of me to put a helmet on, but I still enjoy playing. So again, we mentioned this already, using your digital devices to be able to see things far away. Another great way to use that tool. Again, the Swiss Army knife.
And again, I use an iPad a ton. I'll take a picture if we're on a trip. I'll take a picture of what I know is a neat scene. I'm not seeing it that well, but then I get back to the hotel and zoom into it. It's like, wow, that was pretty cool. So, and then there's the head-mounted video devices, which is, again, another whole talk that we could do nothing about. It's just on these, but just know that it's using like a CCTV and the ability of it, but putting it hands-free and on your head. And this is just a picture, one called the Iris Vision and the other called eSight, and there's other ones in the space as well. But the Iris Vision is the one. I'm just going to lead into this, Greg, that the one that I kind of bought years ago. And I'm really trying to work with it in different ways. I don't use it a ton, I'll be honest with you, but I did take it on a trip. We were in Williamsburg and did a museum. And what it does for me with RP, as you well know, you go into a dimly lit museum or whatnot, and you really lose visual quality of movement. And like an iPad, these are using smartphones, and they really enhance that low light. It enhances that low light ability. So you feel like you can see more in low light, and then you can zoom into things in a museum display or people's faces. I've even tried using it playing cornhole. It has a bioptic where I can do on the bottom half of the screen, I can do just a regular 1X, like seeing it, and then I can zoom in with a color bioptic design on top. I can zoom in on top and see the beanbag hopefully hit the table. So,
and that's really nice form, by the way, Tom.
Yeah, thank you. They always say cornhole is one of those games you can play. You can have a beer in one hand and a beanbag in the other.
Hey, how much did that Iris Vision, that particular model, cost you?
Yeah, that cost retail. I think that cost about $3,000, about 29. Yeah.
Okay, and they've got a newer one.
Yeah.
with a different type, it runs about 4,000 because people ask. The
Yeah.
E-Sight is about 6. So you've got
Yeah,
options today.
and they keep on improving them. So it just depends how it fits. We'll talk about that at the end. And just a real quick slide, Greg, on driving, if you want to just take this on, okay?
Yeah, because this is one that everybody wants to know about. I want to still be able to drive. Can I still do it? And this is something we talk about. Tom and I, for years, have been people's biggest cheerleader if they have the amount of vision necessary to do it. And we know that they could function doing it safely. Okay, so we are, kind of that place where the line is drawn, and we're very honest with people. If somebody's able to do it, then that's a fantastic thing. We give them what the parameters might be. They can't drive over a certain speed or within a certain area, not on highways, only during daylight hours. Those are all things we look at based on the evaluation that we perform, see what level of contrast your eyes are at. And in some cases, if a person's vision is worse than 20/60, between 20/60 or 20/70 and 2100, they might be able to drive maybe using a picture of what you see here. This bioptic pair of glasses means there's a telescope mounted in there. And it's not just for cars, but it is certainly one of those things called bioptic driving. There's well over 40 states that have bioptic driving laws. And if you have questions about that, I would be happy to answer those. And you'll get that contact information from Julie later. Right under that, I asked Tom to put a picture in of what's something that's probably going to be available to many of us within the next maybe 5 years, and that's the autonomous cars. Okay, what if you can't see to drive? Well, the cars are coming out where you're actually going to be able to get in, and just like talking to your Alexa or Hey Siri on the phone, it's going to pop up and you're going to be able to say, take me to the grocery store, and it's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, that would be wonderful, but I'm not holding my breath quite yet. But as we move into illumination and glare, again, we'll just touch on this, just understand lighting, as we all know with inherited retinal diseases is huge. Sometimes too much lighting is not good, but there's overhead types of lighting, from most of it now in toward the LED spectrum. And then there's task lighting. Again, that gives us the ability to work on a specific project, but doesn't illuminate that entire area. For Greg and I, we love our LED flashlights. We just, those flashlights just allow us to go into dim lit areas and feel like we can move around, and I hate those transitions, as many of you as well, going from brightly lit areas to more dimly lit areas. And, it's the flashlight really helps you function, and the LED is now becoming rechargeable. Just really nice choices out there for us. Glare issues are significant, and using sunglasses and to help cut that glare with different tints, from high contrast tints to darker tints, just depending on your retina and how it's behaving and how you're going to function with some of those things. And I love to take personally an early morning walk, but when that sun peers up over their eyes and that glare, I don't know about many of you, but I'm now 60 years old and my cones aren't functioning in the center of my vision nearly like they were before. And that glare can be equally disabling than low light is. And so I use a long-billed hat for my morning walks. My wife calls it my platypus hat. It kind of sticks out twice as far, but it's really effective. It's a way that you can just tip your head down, cut out that top glare. And by cutting out that top glare, even with sunglasses, it allows you to decrease that glare spot and makes me a little safer in my morning walks, especially when they're winter, when you have icy patches and those kinds of things, which gets a little bit hairier as we do that.
And
Anything
as far as the cap goes, if I could say one thing about the cap, I love that cap that Tom's got there. I wear a ball cap a lot. I wear a hat, period, that's always got a brim for the same reason Tom said, but I use it for a second reason as well. And believe it or not, it's a safety thing. I'm one of those people who's fiercely independent. I want to still keep doing handy projects and things. And I can go into things and bang my head. Well, sometimes that brim is the first line of defense because it will bump something before my head does. Or you can buy padded inserts that go into a ball cap today, made by a company called Liners, Linerz. And those are available on Amazon. So what it does, it makes the inside of the hat padded, so you don't have to worry about as much about banging your head when you don't see well.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Greg. So now let's head into step 3. So we've gone into trying to use eye care to help us stabilize the vision. We use low vision care to help maximize that vision and create options. And now we're in step 3, which is to strategize how to do things once we get out of an office, but now we're at home, work, or in community settings. And I'm just going to run through these, right? But yeah, just interrupt. Okay, but essential people in our lives are people that help us with our activities of daily living. These are certified, master's trained individuals who are certified vision rehab teachers, or there's also occupational therapists who specialize in working with people who are visually impaired. They come out into the home and help you within your world, not in some artificial world or office. Then there's also orientation and mobility specialists, critical people in helping us use a long white cane. That's a picture of me in the middle at O'Hare International Airport with my cane. I love my white cane. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into our favorites. But it kind of parts the ways of that busy airport, and it gets people out of my way and keeps people out of my space. And hopefully it makes it a little bit less stressful for my wife, not always having to look out for me, because she knows people understand that I have this peripheral field loss. Also guide dogs are actually certified mobility specialists, work with guide dogs as well as long white canes and mobility and transportation in general. There's sometimes, again, when we can't drive, and neither Greg or I currently drive, this is my paratransit that pulled up to my house every morning to get me to work and back, and wonderful access within our community. City transit, Lyft, Ubers, taxis, family, friends, everybody's essential in helping us still stay in a way that we can contribute to our communities and do the things we want to do. Mm-hmm. Adaptive computer technology training are professionals who are assisted technology, instructional specialists. That's their official name. We just call them great people that can come out and work with you specifically with the computer technology and make you feel more confident in the use of the technology you have around you. And emotional support, critical, right? If you're not coping emotionally with your loss, and it is a loss, okay? It could be through grief or other things that you're just dealing with on top of the vision loss. None of this that we just talked about the last hour and 15, hour and 30 minutes matters, because if you're not emotionally okay, then it's a rough road. So you need to have and search out counselors and psychologists and people that can help you move through that. And Greg, I want you to speak to that, of the importance of that from your perspective as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I counseled for nearly 10 years when I was in the church, and you don't have to be a doctor to have people come in who are struggling with their vision. And I will tell you that I emphasized that in my seminary training as far as counseling courses. And it was great for me because it really helped me understand how important this is. And actually, I'll be honest with you, every one of us can use this, whether you got vision impairment or not. We can all use to talk to someone who's a good listener and maybe just point things out, because sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you can't see the forest through the trees, okay? And they just help us to step back and use, when that Tom showed that picture of wide angle vision, that's kind of what these people can do sometimes. We can get so focused on the smallest detail. And there is no one is ever going to say that vision loss is an easy thing to accept. It's not. It's a terrible pill to swallow. It's a horse pill to swallow. But there are support groups and there are people, counselors, professionals that you can talk with. And I would encourage anybody to do that. It's a very, very good thing, very healthy thing to be able to do.
Absolutely. And it sounds like the Foundation Fighting Blindness has a monthly group that, again, may not go more on the emotional support, but more on the how-to things. But I don't know, but just getting together with like-minded people,
Absolutely.
huge, absolutely huge. Braille teaching, again, there are still wonderful aspects of Braille to be able to read things on your own without someone always talking to you and speaking to you, but reading quiet. I am not a Braille reader, but I'm amazed by the people who are, and again, definitely something to keep in that list. Other tons of things that are out there from vision rehab services, but early childhood educators working with birth through 3 or to age 3, teachers of the visually impaired that work with students who are 3 and through transition through high school and beyond. Speech and language, psychologists, we already talked about that. Driving rehab specialists who teach people how to drive with some type of disability, including vision, behind the wheel. Recreational therapist, music therapist, horticultural therapist, you name it, it's out there. And again, just understand that those are things that can help support you through that. So that category 3 is equally important to strategize and to get those people out so you can feel more comfortable. If you're not comfortable in your home, it's hard to get outside your home, and these people help you do that. So options, and we're going to end with our options, our top 5. And Greg, give us your top 5, and then we're going to open it up to questions. Okay, so your top 5.
Yeah, so here's my top 5 that I don't leave home without. And again, I said, I couldn't believe I didn't mention the handheld magnifier, but that's always in my pocket. My Apple Watch, I have my monocular telescope, I have my iPad. I always keep a flashlight with me. In fact, my boys jokingly call me Mr. Flashlight because I have them in different rooms. I have several different coats in the closet that if you reach in there, you're going to feel a flashlight is in the pocket. And then my cane. I use an ID cane. I don't always use my long white cane, but having that to notify other people around me, just like Tom said, when you're at the airport, it's a very important thing. And I will tell you, when I first took that out the first time, it was a very emotional thing for me. It was very hard because I was like, boy, this is really a flag to people. But in the end, I have found that yes, it is, but it also shows people, you know what, I want to still be independent and I want to be able to do things. So my number 1, I don't leave home without my iPhone. If I'm going to take anything else with me, even though I always grab those other things, there's one thing that I always make sure I grab because it can do so many of the things that we've already talked about is my iPhone. So.
Thanks, Greg. I'll run through mine real quick. Similar to Greg, some I can't take with me though. So I love my desktop computer, my desktop CCTV. I love my handheld 4X or 5X LED handheld magnifier, my LED flashlight. My iPhone's critical. And then I'll speak to Greg, my white cane. I can't tell you the impact that that's had in my life. I love to travel. I wouldn't travel without it, honestly. It just gives me confidence and to know that I can move into and allows other people to know. And I bumped in and cut off people so many times. And one person called me out. That's what really got me using the cane. And he wasn't very happy that I nailed him. and I started using the cane more and more. Even just using it in a restroom, you get disoriented. And there's a guy just, says, hey, sir, he sees the white cane and says, hey, it's on this side. I mean, just little things like that just make your world easier. And it just allows me to feel like I can hold my head up and it's like, get the hell out of my way. Here I come. So that's just my thought, pardon my French. But my number 1 is my iPad. It's my Swiss Army knife. It's the first thing I pack along with my cane. And it's my news, weather, and sports. It's my magnifier. It's my talking book. It's my browser. I get things on browser into larger print. It's my scanner. I use it as a scanner all the time. I play games. I have my road atlas, and I use it as my navigator on trips and whatnot. It's a wonderful tool for me. Okay. So how to find rehabilitation services. Again, just talk to your eye care professional. Hopefully now there's just a ton out there. And if you get a pushback and say, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do, you just smile at them and say, I know better. There's just a lot that we can do. Can you tell me who can do it for me? Because not all doctors want to go there, and it's okay. But we want you to know and to advocate for yourself that you have these options to you. So, but hopefully they'll lead you that way. Okay. Most of them will. If not, I always have found calling a local retinal specialist office. Like, let's say they're in the middle of Oklahoma, you find a retinal specialist office in that vicinity. They know who they're referring. Retina specialists refer to low vision and vision rehab services all the time. A lot of times you'll get an idea of who they use and feel comfortable and like using. And the other is call your local vocational rehabilitation offices, because they as well know who the low vision specialists are in their community. And they also know what types of services they can provide someone or a loved one in your area. Anything you want to add to that, Gregg?
No, I think that's a great way to go about it.
Okay. The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision, says Helen Keller. Very profound statement. Don't be afraid to change your perspective. We can't thank you enough, and we hope there's some questions. I know we've gone a little bit, we're trying to get done at 11:30. Not bad, but we did say, Julie, I think you told us we had till noon. So hopefully we can still have plenty of time for some questions.
Yes, this is Julie speaking. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to come off of mute, ask away. Dr. Gregg and Dr. Tom are here for a resource right now, so please take advantage of any questions you may have. Just a little tidbit, Dr. Tom, I had no idea you were a part-time model. Just such great photos in there. I love it. I love that you were able to show us, you using these tools. So thank you so much. But questions, anybody? And if you don't feel comfortable coming off of mute, you can put them in the chat and we can ask them for you. I know Megan in the chat earlier said she loved how the presentation was designed to be easy to see for low vision. So thank you for that. And she also said, I love how you always have a flashlight with you. Is there a particular brand / type you find to be brighter than others?
Yeah, and I'll let Tom share as well. There's Streamlight is one that we use at the office. There's Surefire, it's extremely bright. But you can buy, like Tom and I each have a rechargeable LED. And what's nice about mine, I don't know if Tom's has this, but it's got a very bright, and it's got a kind of half of that same brightness. So depending on where you're at or what you're doing, you have the option of being able to turn that light to a certain intensity as well. Just having it with me makes a huge difference. I walk with people, and sometimes they don't, they see fine. So they don't even bother turning the lights on. And I'm like, okay, you don't have to turn the lights on, but I need them. And I whip that flashlight out, and then I can navigate, to see things well. So
Greg, when I visit like my brother's house, is a very dim house, and I'll have my flashlight going, and it just allows me to navigate much more comfortable. I think we're looking for 1,000 watts, right? I mean, is it typical for distance? And then you want to have something. I think if you have 1,000 as your max, that can help you like get to the mailbox and do things at nighttime easier. Oh, yeah. But then you want to be able to lower it down. So if you're doing something a little bit closer, it's not so bright that you get glare. Too much light is glare, and that's not good either. And like I said, it can be disabling as well. And then having it rechargeable and not having to buy batteries all the time is really helpful, because they go on when you don't sometimes want them on, and that can be really nice. So, yep.
And that lower setting is actually kind of nice if you do go to a movie, because the theaters they're like pitch black. When I go from light to dark, I have a huge problem for a few minutes that I don't have, my adaptation is not so quick. So I can use a dim setting on it to walk through the aisle and not disturb people so much.
Thank you, and thank you, Megan. That was such a great question. Do we have any other ones? This is your time. Don't have to be shy, but like I said, you can put it in the chat if you are. But I just want to say real quick, take a second to thank Dr. Tom and Dr. Gregg. I mean, this was such an informative presentation. And we actually have a question here from Stephen. He said, what is the name of the stand that you put the iPad on?
EYE-GO.
And if you email Greg or myself, we'll get you in touch with Brian because he doesn't advertise it a lot. He's just very small. He works with a local machine shop down locally. So it's not like he's mass producing this in China, okay? This is kind of a locally built kind of thing.
Made in
And
the
so-
USA.
Yeah. But so if you want to email Greg or myself, or email Julie and she can send it, we can give you his specific contact information. But it's Magnesite of the Rockies. Magnesite, MAGNISIGHT of the Rockies. His name is Brian Smith, and it's the EYE-GO, EYE, like Greg said, GO. And it's just the most versatile stand that I have seen to use. I'm using it right now as I'm talking to you on the Zoom. Gets it upright and a lot of capabilities to it. But again, we're not here to pitch it. It's just I haven't found one on Amazon that does what it does.
Yeah, very stable. You can tell because your image is not moving a lot, so great question.
Yes, thank you. And just a reminder, after this, in the middle of the week, probably by Wednesday, I'll send out a recap of today and it'll have everybody's information. So it'll have Dr. Tom and Dr. Greg. So if there were any questions you forgot to ask or something comes to you at a later time, you'll be able to contact them directly. But we did have another question from Megan. She says, can you say again what you use the app for that that Apple charges $100 for?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's the KNFB reader. So K for Dr. Kurzweil, NFB for National Federation for the Blind. It's kind of an easy way to remember. KNFB reader. And it's 100 on Apple. It was 20 on Android, but it's a great tool.
Yeah, and again, and also compare and contrast that with the Microsoft's Seeing AI. So the word seeing and then letter A, letter I, that's a free app, okay? And play with that. That's gotten better as the years go by, but it's something to compare and contrast. So we always like options, right, Greg?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you. Any more questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. But like I was saying, if something comes to you at a later time, you'll be able to contact them directly. This was a super great presentation, and I'm thankful that you gave us two perspectives from, the professionals that you are, and then the individuals who are dealing with low vision yourselves. So it really opened up a new perspective for all of us. So thank you so much. And like I said, thank you for giving us your Saturday. If there's no more questions, we can give you back some time. But like I said, you'll have contact information by the middle of the week. So if anything comes to you, please reach out to them. Please reach out to We want to be a resource for you within Colorado. So please do not be shy. We're here for y'all. And just thank you again to our great speakers for their presentation today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much, Julie, and to all of you for you being a part of it this morning and to let us know what we can do moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Keep you all in my prayers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And everybody have a great rest of your Saturday.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.